But my assessment of Bitcoin back then, I still stand behind it. I still say that it was a valid assessment that Bitcoin is not money and it is not functioning today as money. It doesn't have the qualities that are necessary to be money. It has some, but not enough. It has some of the properties that gold has that makes gold better money than cattle, or oil or wheat or, other commodities that could function as money. But it's missing the most important quality that you need, and that is an independent use case, an intrinsic value beyond being used as a medium of exchange, right? In order to be a store of value, you have to have an underlying value to store. Why is gold a store of value? Because gold could be used in jewelry and gold could be used in industry. It could be used in consumer electronics. It's the greatest conductor of electricity of all the metals. It can be used in aerospace. It can be used in dentistry, and it is. It is used in the real world. And the beauty of gold is gold does not lose any of those properties over time. So an ounce of gold today, if I bury it in the ground and I dig it up in 100 years, it can be used as if it was brand new. And in fact, even if you use gold for something, let's say I have a gold bracelet, I can melt that bracelet down and I get the gold back and I could use it all over again. And the gold that was melted down from a bracelet is exactly the same as the gold that gets taken out of the ground that day. So it is a great store of value. It doesn't tarnish, it doesn't decay. But Bitcoin is not a store of value because it has no value to store. What Bitcoin is a speculative digital asset that's value is based on what people are willing to pay for it. And people are willing to pay over $9,000 for a Bitcoin today. Why? Is there anything they can do with it? No. All they can do is hold it until they sell it to somebody else. And people are buying it because they think they can sell it to somebody else for a higher price in the future.
What happens?
The supply of fools runs out and the price just starts falling and there are no people willing to pay higher prices. Well, then the party is over and Bitcoin will fall to its intrinsic value, which is zero. Now, maybe it will have some slight value above zero. Maybe there'll be some use case for it at some very, very low price. But I don't think people should be buying it if they're worried about inflation, if they're looking for a store of value or a safe haven. I think Bitcoin does not qualify as any of those. But they should be buying gold. Bitcoin is horrible. If I wanted to send you $1 worth of Bitcoin, I think it costs maybe 90 cents to send $1. So obviously I wouldn't do it. And it might take 4 hours or 8 hours to accomplish the transaction. But obviously, if I wanted to send you $100,000 worth of Bitcoin, the cost of doing that is very low compared to me wiring you. But the risk is high. What if the 100,000 turns into 95,000, in transit? What if Bitcoin price drops 5%, which it can do any minute? It's done it many times before. I've seen it drop 10% in a matter of minutes. So there is a lot of volatility risk that you have in Bitcoin. If I'm just going to wire you 100,000 in cash, I don't take that kind of risk. So I don't know what type of value Bitcoin would have for that purpose. I don't think it's anywhere near $9,000 of Bitcoin. The people who are buying Bitcoin are making the bet, and it's a very foolish bet, that Bitcoin is going to somehow replace gold or replace fiat currency. That people are one day going to be transacting in Bitcoin the way they now transact in dollars or euros or yen, that people are going to have wages and contracts, employment contracts in Bitcoin. People are going to have rent where they're going to rent property and the landlord's going to say, you're going to pay me Bitcoin. People are going to take out insurance policies where the payoffs are going to be in Bitcoin. People are going to loan each other money. They're going to buy bonds where the principal and the interests are in Bitcoin. I don't think that's ever going to happen. I don't think Bitcoin is ever going to reach a point where it can function in that way. I think long before then it will collapse. Yeah, I think that it's just a speculative bubble. But people do need to get their money out of the U.S. dollar. Like you can listen, Goldman Sachs had this conference call for investors yesterday, and they specifically said that Bitcoin is not an asset class. You don't want to buy any Bitcoin. We're not going to recommend it to their clients. And I 100% agree with Goldman's assessment of Bitcoin. But I disagree with their premise that there's nothing to worry about. See, they also think that the dollar is sound And you don't need an inflation hedge. That's their other premise. So they say, A, you don't need an inflation hedge, and B, if you need one, then you don't want to buy Bitcoin because there's no evidence that it is. And I agree with that. But I disagree with their premise that everything is fine, there's nothing to worry about, the dollar is sound, and there's no inflation. I think there's a lot of inflation. The dollar is anything but sound, and people need a hedge. I think gold and silver mining stocks right now, I think for the people who don't just want to hedge, but they want to really make money, they don't want to just preserve their wealth, they want to compound their wealth. I think you have a great opportunity now in the gold mining sector. I've got a lot of my own personal money in gold mining stocks. I have a lot of client money in gold mining stocks. In fact, I have separately managed accounts that I manage in portfolios of gold stocks. If people are interested, they can go to europacificfunds.com and inquire. We also have mutual funds that we manage. Euro Pacific Gold Fund, where people can buy my mutual fund that's in gold mining stocks. I think we could see some 10 baggers, 20 baggers. Some of these stocks, some of the juniors could go up 50-fold if we get $5,000 gold, $10,000 gold, $20,000 gold. I think all of these numbers are in play. I think we're going to go back to a gold standard. I mean, I don't think there's any other way that this is going to end. I think once we have a dollar crisis, the only way to restore confidence to the monetary system is to have all these fiat currencies no longer fiat, to back them by gold the way they were before they were backed by dollars. And in fact, when the dollar became the reserve currency, people forget this. The dollar was as good as gold, or at least that's what people thought. If you had $35, you had an ounce of gold. The US government made that promise that you could exchange $35 for an ounce of gold whenever you wanted. And in the meantime, you can loan the money to the US government by buying treasuries and get maybe a 7-8% interest rate, right, on your gold. And so the dollar was the reserve currency because the dollar was backed by gold. And so if your currency was backed by the dollar, which was backed by gold, well, then your currency was backed by gold as well through the association with the dollar. But when the US government severed that link in 1971 and defaulted on its commitments to pay gold, then the US took the world off the gold standard and put them on a dollar standard. But the dollar was no longer as good as gold, so it doesn't work. And the dollar has depreciated dramatically since then, and we have created tremendous global economic imbalances as a result of this monetary system that is unsustainable. But I think once the dollar collapses, the only way to prevent the euro from collapsing, the yen from collapsing, the pound, all these currencies, is to back them by gold again. And all these central banks have gold, so they just have to have some type of relationship between their currencies and gold. They may have to buy more gold, but clearly the gold that they have will be a lot more valuable. And so all of a sudden, the gold will be a much larger percentage of their reserves simply because of the massive appreciation that gold is going to have relative to dollars, which constitute the bulk of their reserves now.